I think the best thing that can happen when playing a new game is not having your expectations met by something you've been anticipating for a long time, but rather trying out a game you know little to nothing about and being pleasantly surprised with how much you enjoy it. For me, that game was AI Limit. This was a game that pinged on my radar once or twice in the months before release, and I bought it without looking up gameplay before, and with no ambition to ever make content regarding it. But here we all are, about 1 year after release, and I am now making a video on it. So do allow me a moment to explicate on why I'm making this, and what this game is, so you can decide for yourself if you want to give it a try. First off, from a bird's eye view, the vibes I get from this game, it is a smaller Souls-like experience, combining many aspects from Nier and Dark Souls 1. It is post-apocalyptic, which you don't see too often in this genre. Code Vein would be closest to it, and Remnant is also similar. Most games in this genre do take place after some apocalyptic event, but that is almost always on some fantastical world. The first thing you'll notice when you start combat is that there is no stamina bar. This is a license the game gives to you to dodge, attack, and spam your spells and special attacks as much as you want, contributing to the speed of the game and the action in the action RPG. Instead, this game has something called sync rate. General rule of thumb, the higher the sync rate, the better. You can get it back from items, but mostly attacking the enemy, and all your spells and special abilities will cost you some of your sync rate. This means that aggression is the name of the game. At a higher sync rate, you deal more damage than at a lower rate. So why be methodical if you can get right in the enemy's face and deal damage while boosting your own damage? But this game is not all about mashing the light and heavy attack buttons, even though you can kind of play it like that. I'll talk about that in a bit. Because you'll want to expend this resource at opportune moments. If the enemy is at range or you have plenty of sync rate to spend, that is when you'll execute a special attack or snipe or buff with one of your spells. Now, before you ask, there are a lot of people that have questioned, is this game like Code Vein? On the surface, it does have that anime art style, and the sync rate may seem similar to the iCore in that game. But once you get down and play it, it does not feel the same. Code Vein, both 1 and 2, are spell casting games. While Code Vein 2 can be very fast-paced, it does not get close to the breakneck, no stamina rhythm of AI Limit. Optimal play feels less like Dark Souls, more like Nier. Regarding the look of the game, it is not alone in the Souls-like genre for having on a polygon level basis not great graphics, but being more or less carried by art design. The game does well about making you feel small in a world that has been dead for generations. Luckily, this dead world is quite fun to explore. These levels incorporate many vertical elements, that being my favorite, and while there will be some loading screens, you can traverse from point to point all across the map by simply walking there. It gives the whole world a sense of interconnectivity that I wish I saw much more often than I do. It is good enough that on my subsequent playthroughs, I wasn't beelining for the next objective. I was still exploring and checking out what was located off the beaten path. Surely this is partially due to the smaller nature of the game, but it had enough variety to keep me occupied. I tried several different weapons on my first playthrough, and enjoyed the unique moveset on many of them. AI Limit also did what many lower budget Souls-likes could never dream of doing. It didn't annoy me with the lack of enemy variety. There were a couple bosses you do end up fighting more than once, but it never got to the point where I was like, oh crap, this guy again? And I cannot say that for every Souls-like I've played. Zooming out, there are 2 indicators that are the impetus as to why I'm making this video and revisiting the game. First, after almost a year of not playing, I can still remember character names. This shows me that I actually cared about what I was doing while playing the game. And the second indicator is, not only did I get the Platinum Trophy, but I played for fun after grabbing the Platinum Trophy. I would not consider myself a trophy hunter, but most of the time after I get the Platinum, I'll set a game aside, never to return to it. And if I do, it'll be years later and I'll forget most of everything about it. Not the case with AI Limit. But now, let's discuss some of the things that I don't like about this game. I mentioned the graphics earlier, not something that bothers me too much. If it takes up less hard drive space because of it, fine by me. Next is the game's stability. I don't experience frame rate drops in this game, but there have been some crashes, one being a repeatable crash that happened every single time an enemy did a certain attack. So that is something the devs probably should address. Also, there are some strange hitboxes. Not in the sense that, how did that hit me? Or how did that not hit the enemy? It's the variety of this complaint that is good for the player. As maybe every other boss fight, there will be some crazy spinning attack or a wide sweep, and I will just think to myself, how did that not hit me? That somewhat ties into the difficulty of the game. On my first playthrough, to play it safe, as I do on most of my first playthroughs, I leveled up health and I leveled up strength. With the exception of 2 fights, not knowing the moveset, and playing in nearly a Skyrim-esque fashion, I was able to plow through most of the game. That is not a sort of difficulty I want in my Souls-likes. Thankfully, there is a remedy, a hard mode at the beginning of the game that you can activate called Semi-Void Form. If you are at all experienced in Souls games, I recommend you turn this mode on. It makes you actually think about your engagements, rather than feeling comfortable about slapping everything with a 2-handed greatsword. There is no other appropriate place to put this, but because I am an author tuber now, I figured I'd mention a companion work I had on my first playthrough. Cormac McCarthy's The Road just so happened to be the book I was reading around the time I bought this game, and the hopeless, post-apocalyptic world he illustrates in that novel pairs rather well with the mood of this game. All my readers out there should pick it up. Plus, this is one of McCarthy's most celebrated works for a reason. Before we round up, I want to ask all of you, have you even heard of this game before? And if you have, did you buy it? What generally are your experiences with AI Limit? I believe it flew under the radar because first Berserker Kazan launched right around the same time, and that game kind of overshadowed it. However, this game is still getting updates. There's a DLC that came out recently. I have yet to play it myself, but that is on the itinerary, so perhaps I'll let you know how I feel about it in a comment or post. That being said, thank you very much for watching. I have 2 videos in the pipeline right now. One is a very overpowered Elden Ring build, and the other is a more analytical video on my history playing Souls-likes throughout the years.